You know, there's good chocolate cake, and then there's chocolate cake that folks will never forget. Take a guess which one we're making today. That's right, we're talking about a moist, deep, decadent chocolate cake that just so happens to be 100% plant-based. Let's talk about what you're gonna need. Non-dairy milk, apple cider vinegar, vanilla extract, all-purpose flour, vegan cane sugar, cocoa powder, baking powder and baking soda, salt, a neutral oil, dairy-free butter, and vegan powdered sugar. To start this off, we're making a vegan buttermilk mixture. Add your dairy-free milk along with some apple cider vinegar into a measuring cup or small bowl and give it a stir. Set that aside 10 to 15 minutes so it can curdle. I usually add my vanilla extract in here too, but I happen to forget, so you'll see me handle that, or sneak it in, I should say, a little later on. And don't worry, it's not some secret amazing technique that just makes this cake phenomenal. Or is it? I'm just playing. But while the vanilla extract in there isn't any secret at all, the plant-based buttermilk is. You see, the vinegar is going to react with the baking powder and do that bubbling volcano thing you normally see. And that there is gonna create the cake to be a bit more airy, but also have like a really tender crumb. While this sits off to the side, let's prep our baking pans. I'm using 8-inch pans today, but this recipe could also work in 9-inch pans without changing the baking temperature and things like that. We're going to line the pans, and don't stress about trying to cut a circle out of a square sheet of parchment paper. Here's a bit of a hack. All you do is just fold your paper into a square like this. Then fold that square into a triangle. To make things a bit easier, I flip the pan over, place the point of the triangle in the center of the pan, and simply cut off anything that hangs over. From here, unfold it, and voila, you have the perfect circle every time. So from here, grease the pan a bit, drop those in, and you're ready. We're bringing our dry ingredients together. In a large bowl, we're adding flour, sugar, cocoa powder, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Now, give that a really good whisk. I actually had to swap my bowls mid-mixing because I realized I grabbed one that was a bit too small. So, lesson learned, and now I have the dirty dish I need to get washed to prove it. Next, we're going to add our wet ingredients, starting with our oil. Then, bring in our buttermilk mixture, and boom, there it is. I'm tossing that vanilla in there that I forgot earlier. Now, this part gets folks a little afraid because our next step is to add boiling hot water into the mixture and then stir until combined. Like most cakes, be careful not to overmix. We simply just want to stir this together until no dry spots are left. Really, what's the big deal with boiling water anyway? Why not just water or milk? The boiling water is going to help bloom the cocoa powder. It helps the cocoa powder release like the most intense chocolate flavor possible. But it plays a dual role because it also thins the batter, which is what gives the cake this incredible moistness and almost fudge-like texture. Is moistness a word? Now, we're ready to add our cake mixture into our pans. I started by eyeballing the batter as I poured it into the pans. But you know me, I'm particular about things being even, so I brought out a food scale to make sure both layers are perfectly even. I pop these in at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and from here, we start checking them, I would say about 30-minute mark to make sure they're done. Okay, once done, bring those out the oven and let them cool for about 15 to 20 minutes in the pan. At this stage, they are really, really soft, so be incredibly gentle. Removing these from the pan is where it all counts. So you want to take your time, be really careful, but also be patient. But not for you, because you got me, and I got a cooking hack for darn near almost everything. And my cooking hacks always work sometimes. Place a cooling rack on top of the pan. Grab the rack and the pan together and flip it over. The cake should slide right out. If you're feeling skilled, you can do both of these at the same time, like this. But if you're new to baking, stick to one at a time. Trust that there isn't much sadder in the kitchen than watching an entire cake fall to pieces before you could enjoy it. All right, while those cool, we're going to work on the frosting. So here we need another large bowl. Add your plant butter and cream it until it's whipped and light. Then add cocoa powder and whip it again until it looks somewhat like frosting. Now add your sugar, milk, and vanilla. We're adding the sugar and milk in small increments. This is gonna make it easier to combine. More importantly, if you dump all of that sugar in at once and hit the button on the mixer, you're going to be standing in a white puff of sugar. And we'd prefer that the sugar be in the cake rather than on us. From here, you gotta judge the texture of what you're looking for when frosting the cake. If it's too thick, you can add a splash more milk until you get it where you need it. If it's too thin, you could use a bit more powdered sugar or cornstarch. Or one of my favorite ways to figure that out is simply by sitting it back in the refrigerator to stiffen up. With our cakes cooled, it's time to assemble. I like to use this spinny, lazy Susan looking thing, or you could simply use a plate that's easy to turn, working on a smooth surface. I put a little of that frosting, also known as buttercream, in the center to keep the cake from sliding as I frost it. From here, I'm gonna show you 2 easy ways to add frosting to this cake that each take no time at all to learn and need very little effort. For the first method, I found some cheap piping supplies online. So I'm doing these little dots on the top in a circle pattern around this layer of the cake. I start by dotting the outer portion, working my way inside to fill the rest of the surface area. This simple dot method can work as like a final layer on a cake because not only is it easy to do, it actually aesthetically looks really good. All right, and now for the next method. We're going a bit more rustic. Pretty much slap the frosting on top of the cake, and with a spoon, you're going to spread it from the center outward to the ends. You could use the spoon and make a fancy design, or even do simple designs like this, where I just hold the spoon in the middle and spin the cake to create a spiral pattern. It's easy, it's beautiful, and gives the aesthetics without going too hard. Cakes without the entire thing frosted are known as naked cakes. I like naked cakes because I personally don't like too much frosting, as I feel like if the cake is really good and the frosting is really good, or I should say, if the cake is really sweet and the frosting is really sweet, it's a bit too much. This cake particularly actually does a really good job with both the frosting and the sponge. But I also just really love chocolate cake. I mean, I could eat it like just the sponge by the handful in my mouth. I said that out loud. And on that note, we are done. Rich, tender crumb, perfectly moist, and a frosting that's basically a snack all on its own. This is the only chocolate cake recipe you're ever going to need. This full recipe can be found linked in the description, or you can head right on over to my website, makeitdairyfree.com. And yes, you can make cupcakes with this recipe. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. Until next time, believe in good. Peace.